All right, it's 2 o'clock now, and welcome to the new virtual museum. This is the silver lining to the dark cloud that is the COVID-19 coronavirus, people. And so today I thought I'd give my lovely wife and talented photographer, Kelly, the afternoon off. Um, and I thought I'd try and do something on my computer. I'm testing this because I'd like to do some of my PowerPoint presentations for you, and I wanted to test this platform. So far, I see that at least you can see me. So today I'd like to show you through a bit of our collection that people don't get to see unless we scan some of it in. First, I'm going to put on gloves. You know, when you're a museum, you got to handle things differently than a private person. And you want to make sure that they last. It's our job to save these things for people, and it's an important job. But today I wanted to go over and show you some of 141, 144 it says here. I haven't counted. 141 according to the catalog. But as some of you discovered today, the catalog isn't always right. So gloves. And what we're going to look at today is, see if you can see that there, the Carroll collection, this wonderful box of photographs. At some point in my spare time, I'm going to take these photographs and scan them in. Some have been scanned in, some haven't. But I thought today I was going to just go and just take them out of the box and show them to you and we'll see what that looked like. So here you can see this left hand, right hand thing. We bought all these for $60 apparently. Hard to say. But there you go. That's the card from the Carroll collection. And here's the first photo I want to show y'all. That is the D&H offices right in Rondout. No longer extant. It was up at the top of what was called Company Path. And if you look carefully, you're going to see right there, harbinger of things to come. There's an Ulster in Delaware a car, railway car. Those offices, I don't have the exact dates, I think built in 58 and then destroyed in the 1930s for Lord knows why. What a shame. Beautiful building. And you know, let's get a look on the inside, hey? There we got a picture of the inside of the office in Rondout, New York, at the terminus of the D&H Canal. This company formed to market anthracite coal from Pennsylvania to the good folk down in New York City and other environs at that point. I'm going to be making work for myself, but I found that if you kept them in their sleeves, you couldn't see them. You got too much glare. Hopefully you're getting a good look at them here. And here, that's the view from that building. Not sure what that building there is. Maybe somebody will weigh in. I'm hoping I can see comments. So far, no comments, but come on. Oh, I don't want that. Sorry about that, folks. That's better. Yeah, so there's a view taken, and right there, let's see if I can, oh, see, it's all right there is the northeastern end. I call it the north end, Tester. Come on. The end of Island Dock. Island Dock was a man-made island in 1844. The canal company hired James McEntee, who was a Erie canal engineer who had trained up on the Erie under Benjamin Wright. Worked for the canal company for a while, and then he did a lot of other things. He owned the mansion house. He worked he operated boats up and down the the Hudson River. But they also had him build Island Dock. They took a sandbar that was going out into the Rondout Creek, and they cut a 40 to 50 foot wide swath. You can see Where's Our Historian segment I recently shot on Island Dock. I'm not sure quite when that'll air, but check in every week. We're doing one Where is Our Historian a week and one episode of our virtual museum where you'll get a guided tour of this wonderful museum before we open an even better museum at the Depew Canal House. Tony Perito had the question, what was our new building, the Canal House? What was that? That was a tavern. Simeon Depew and his wife, very successful people, built a tavern in 1797. March 12th of 1850, the canal company bought that house and operated it. And now we're going to have a museum in there. Either one of these episodes, one of these Sundays, I'll do a guided tour of it, or I'll do a Where's Our Historian. Haven't decided yet, but that's all so that you all check in with us again. Here's another shot taken from the same spot recently of a steamboat turning into, yeah, see, everything's backwards here, folks. Steamboat turning around in the Rondout Creek. Look at all those sloops. Rondout was a huge port. I think it was the second or third busiest port on the Hudson River. And you gotta figure it was the D&H Canal that made it so, wasn't it? And while we're on the topic of Island Dock, look at all that coal. These pictures were said to be taken in the 1880s. Someday I want to figure out what my our earliest pictures are. But look at all that, all the canal boats, mountains of coal, and equipment to move that coal. Don't see any comments yet, but I'm happy to try and take your questions in the comments. Boy, I wish Facebook made it easier for you to see. Oh, there we go. They're over there. The sound is good. Thank you. Resolution is best. Yeah, Al, I know I was taking a, if I'd had the time, I'd scan them all in, which I need to do, but 140, well, I don't know how many I picked, but I figured this is better than nothing, and I'll start scanning these out for people and putting them. I should put a picture up while I'm showing you, though, right? I'm trying to give you the best look at these. Um, Oh, the Lower Dockmaster Building. Thank you for that, Chester. Chester, a very enthusiastic local historian. We're hoping we can put him to work, perhaps helping us with graphics and stuff in the new museum. I'm glad now that I can see the comments. That's good. I don't need my phone then. Let me just get out of there because that's one less problem there. And then if Dave wants to call in, I'll hear him. Don't mind me, folks. There we go. Oops. I'm forgetting my main job. I kind of feel like Vanna White here, right? And here we have, it's interesting doing this all alone. Another great shot of Island Dock. And the next one is an action shot. I really like the high-tech, low-tech pictures. Well, Steve, they unloaded the coal by hand. It took 3 men 8 hours to unload a load of coal. It says on the wall of my museum, which doesn't mean it's true necessarily, but it took a long time. And eventually, so in the 1850s, they undertake a final enlargement. They're going to make their canal much, much bigger and wider, and they're going to go from they enlarge in the 1840s after they're not very successful in the first decade. 1840s, their first year where they start really kind of making some money, All right, that's great. So they start enlarging their canal. 1843, they simply make it a foot deeper. Easy enough. Just add some more material to the towpath side and put in some more water. That was so successful, they make it another 6 inch deeper. So that between 43 and 46, they're doing this constant enlargement. And at that point now, they've got boats that can handle 50, even up to I think 80 might have been the max for that early canal. We'll get back to the unloading in a second. I'm working up to that. As they increased their capacity, and towards the end of the 1840s, a new company opened up called the Pennsylvania, well, its first name was, I think, the Washington or Wyoming Coal Company, but they quickly renamed it the Pennsylvania Coal Company. And it's an interesting story I still have to dig into because Pennsylvania Coal, all the officers were D&H guys. I believe that that they were trying to start a friendly rival. Well, that didn't work out because they enlarged the canal, a final enlargement of 1850. So the early canal, 32-foot wide on the top, 20-foot wide on the bottom, 4 foot of water, later 5 foot of water, later 5.5 foot of water. But now they're going to go big or go home in an American way. And they do the final enlargement, and the boats, which were 75 foot long and 9 foot wide, so all of your bridges, your aqueducts, and your locks accommodated that size boat, and only that size boat or smaller. Final enlargement, they want to go to boats that are 14.5 foot wide and 91 foot long. It means they had to rebuild every bridge, every aqueduct, every lock. And if you watch my Where is Our Historian series, when I'm at the N-word locks, stay tuned, folks, the N-word locks, I actually try to parse which side of the lock was completely rebuilt when they made it wider. They could keep one side, they'd make it taller and longer, and you could see the signs of that if you know what you're looking for. But in the final enlargement, so that other side was completely rebuilt. Um, and now they start handling boats eventually that are 130 tons worth of coal. Um, the shame of the whole thing was that in the end, the Pennsylvania Coal Company was supposed to pay X amount more per ton. I think it was 20 cents, 40 cents, to help pay for the enlargement because they were going to save money, weren't they? Well, what winds up being a court case, 8 volumes, over 5,000 words. And as I like to say, the only beneficiaries were we historians because it's a wonderful source of primary source documentation and stories of the canalers that we wouldn't have otherwise. But the canal company won, but it was a hollow victory since they never managed to collect. The PA Coal Company simply took their traffic to the Erie Railroad, and that was it. One more shot here, and this is now, I'm going the wrong direction. Most of these are going to be going down the canal back towards Honesdale, but just wanted to throw in this one. Those are all boats on that far side. Oh, this is a nice segue. Those are all boats, probably at this point in time, those are all Pennsylvania Coal Company boats. But that's winter, over, oops, everything's backwards from what I see, folks. That right there is a bunch of boats being berthed. This is a little further north of Island Dock. But to get back to how do they unload the coal, they did it by hand. At the final enlargement, they really wanted the boats to be able to go out in the Hudson like they had originally planned. The Hudson River being a tidal estuary was those little boats couldn't handle it. In fact, they couldn't even be flooded out of the locks. If you open your gates early on a lock, the water could conceivably take your boat out, or it could sink it. With the early boats, it tended to sink them, and so that didn't work out. They were really wanted to go over and have what they called full river boats, boats that were bigger and heavier, so that they wouldn't have to unload that coal at Island Dock. And I can say this definitively from letters by the chief engineer, et cetera. This is clearly what they plan to do. But there was a problem. The full river boats were about $1,400. The full river boat had to be about 1.5 feet taller at the gunnels, so as not to sink out in the Hudson. It was $1,400 for that boat. A regular boat that couldn't go out on the Hudson was only $1,200. And they had these things called section boats that were in two pieces. This was because the Morris Canal had an inclined plane that put the boat on a cradle and took it up. I can't watch myself. Took it up. Well, 90-foot long boat, no, that cradle couldn't handle it. So they started making boats in sections. Some people have speculated it was to separate the boats, but no, most of the section boats weren't river worthy. They did have some full river section boats, but they were fairly rare. I think PA Coal might have ran more full river boats too, by the way. But those section boats were only $800. So it's one point where the canalers got to actually vote with their pocketbooks. For the most part, the canalers were at the mercy of the canal company who controlled everything. But the canalers wouldn't buy those expensive boats. I also contend that the 2-day trip down to New York and back wasn't well enough paid for. The canalers would rather go take another whole load of 130 tons of coal and get credited for transporting that, maybe get another trip or maybe even two in a season. By the 1890s, finally getting to Steve's question, they actually developed, they had the Dodge unloaders and the Chase elevators. And so they had mechanical devices. They make the cover of Scientific American, and I'll show that to you at some other time or as a Facebook post. They actually made Scientific American in June of 1890, celebrating this wonderful new coal handling equipment. Well, you know, if the canal company had their way, they would have never done that. Everybody would have just kept going out the Hudson. But as I say, it's one instance where the canalers actually controlled things. Extremely rare. Already 15 minutes in. You know, I wonder how long I should be going on these things. These pictures were taken on a steam or naphtha launch. They burned either coal or naphtha, petroleum product. And this, I believe, I'm not sure if this is the one that these pictures were taken on, but and only the canal company could operate these boats. They went too fast, folks. If the boat went too fast, it would erode the sides, and bye-bye canal. There's speculation in the New York Times in the 1890s. Somebody's trying to develop an all-electric boat so that you could perhaps navigate without mules. But that doesn't happen on this canal ever. It does happen in the Erie in the 20th century. But they unloaded by hand. They had steam shovels by the 1870s, and they also invested in specific machinery to move that coal. They were a company about efficiencies, about improvements. They embraced the telegraph. Within 4 years of the first telegraph line, they've got one along their entire route. They use it when they've got too much coal. They use it to tell the lock tenders not to allow a coal boat through. There's one of those cases where the canalers get, what's a nice way to put it? Well, hoarded, let's just say. We can all think of a better word. So I love these. We don't get enough pictures of dogs. If you saw my midweek announcement, you saw another picture of this same dog cavorting on the side of the steam launch. This is Facebook. Cats and dogs, people. That's what's going to be popular. That and, of course, politics, which we're going to just completely avoid today here. Pretty much myself, too. It's not worth it. Aqueducts, you say? Well, here's a great picture. This one's been widely reproduced, although Lord knows it's a common this is the Roebling Aqueduct over the Roundout Creek, and behind it you can see the Roman-style two-arch stone aqueduct. So when they rerouted here in High Falls, they lost a couple locks. They completely rerouted because the route was too serpentine to take the longer boats. There's 2 locks extant right now that I stand there in the middle of 213 and go, I don't think you could have fit 2 90-foot boats here. They also ended up going over the river about 1 lock's worth higher. So they rebuilt, and that answers a question of mine about the N-word locks. Those were all new. There's a mistake I made already. Well, I'm constantly learning, folks. What can I tell you? Just today I posted a picture, but my catalog was the Delaware. I learn something new every day. I like to say it's why I get up in the morning. So there is the abutments are extant. That stone aqueduct was taken down by the local utility in 1956. They said that it was dangerous because a flood the previous year had undermined it. An extant old timer says that wasn't true. They didn't want the liability. Liability and insurance companies drive more things than they should, in my opinion. But it's the world we live in, isn't it? It's a changing world, as COVID is proving. Here's another great shot of, I'm trying to get to where you can see these folks. Oop. That's looking north on the Roebling Aqueduct here in High Falls. You can see there's a railway for carrying cement. There were 8 mills here in High Falls in the 1970s, harnessing the power of the Roundout Creek in the falls here. Off to your left is where it connected with the old canal route, which they kept watered for some of the businesses for some number of years. I can't say how long, actually. Beautiful picture. I hope I didn't pick too many pictures for you folks. I guess I could always decide to continue it next week. Well, let's just see. And you can always weigh in. I think oh, wait, here we go. I have to move that, huh? Hey, Judy, good to see you. Round trip, Robert, love to. Oh, I see. This is great. I see. I didn't cancel. Bridgemeister here. David Denenberg. Howdy, David. I'm using this particular Sunday afternoon thing because I want to hear from people. I want to get your questions. Chester, wonderful. If you can see, Chester has posted something of the High Falls Aqueduct burning. Chester is almost my right hand remotely because he's constantly posts some wonderful stuff based on things that I said. That's a good idea, Ron, but it's too close to yeah, I'll have to work that out. You're right. Hello, John McElwee. So this, I don't even know what this is. Oh, wait, it says right here, bridge over the creek before High Falls. So, what, I'm not as steady as an easel? You're right. It's that morning coffee, folks. So this is actually the site of a bridge to this day here in High Falls. Turn the sound off on that, huh? I realized that this wasn't going to be perfect, folks, but I thought it'd be fun and something to pass a Sunday afternoon. I pulled this picture just because I love these pictures that include a little bit of the boat in them, so you can see where the picture was taken. I guess a photographer must have gotten permission to climb on the boat when it was making a run. These steam launches that the D&H had, were used for repair boats and the paymaster. You know, the D&H Canal Company was successful, a primary source says, a man by the name of Hollister, who wrote a history of the Lackawanna Valley that got published, and he wrote an unpublished history in the 1880s of the D&H. And he says, and this is serious, the D&H Canal Company was successful partially because they initiated the policy of paying you every month in cash, something that didn't happen at that time. Believe it or not, people. Steady pay it was barter very often, or it was on credit, and very often credit could take a long time, couldn't it? Thank you there, Justin. I do too. This is an amazing box. When Dr. Powell from the Carbondale Historical Society was here, I just sat him down one day when I had some stuff to do for a little bit, and just let him go through these pictures. Don't know where this. Oh wait, no, this is Lock 23. This is a view of Lock 23. Would have been here in Accord, New York. Here in our current museum, we have a an ice fork, and there again on the left. Is it the left or the right? I think it's your right, my left. We can see the front of the boat again. But there it is approaching Lock 23. We have the ice fork from Lock 23, an antique dealer who would sell at our antique mart in High Falls, not on because of COVID. Um, got for us, we purchased from them at a moderate price. The ice fork that from that spot. We are working right now, Steve, on digitizing. We have a lot of digitized images that I'll get up in the next week or two, and we're working on a new website that will have archives, we'll have articles, and we'll have our pictures up. It's going to take a minute. That'll be done by the end of May because our current site will be sunsetted. I love these pictures that show everyday life. There's a rare thing. It's an adult hoagie. Hoagie was what we called the mule drivers. Yeah, you're right, Ron. I'm just not the steadiest. The mule drivers were referred to hoagies. Ho, stop. Ye, go. Eileen Camasso, down in South Carolina, past president and vice president. I hope you're doing well and safe, you and your family. Eileen, we miss you up here in High Falls. I'm proud of the work that the staff here at the D&H has done in getting both digital content up as quickly as we did. We've got a wonderful staff. Like these gloves were given to me by Robert Becker, our handyman. They're really great rubber gloves. The video pieces you see on our YouTube channel are being edited by the excellent Courtney McNamara, my curatorial assistant, the docent. Amanda Winters is our newest member of the staff, and she'll be curating our online store and our store that'll be here in our new museum. Here's a little foreshadowing. Now we're going down and of course, Kayla Altman in Atlanta is designing our new website, doing a wonderful job. She writes a lot of our very successful grant applications. You know, later, folks, that you can watch this and you can pause it so you get a better look at these pictures. So I'll try and get them as unglaring as I can. That is the Napanock Reformatory. I always have to say that's some Orwellian doublespeak. Correctional facility, reformatory. Would that they were. Would that that's what they did. So down in Napanock, that's still extant today. And in fact, most of the materials, all of the materials, we're told, were moved on the canal from the Hudson River in the early 20th century. There's a better shot of it. Our trustee, Dave Kine, like myself, loves to get out and see the canal. And he was threatened by a guard at this facility a couple years back. I'm hoping they're going to be better. They have the old New York O&W station there, and they're putting a little museum in it. I noticed some chatter on Facebook about it. And I think that maybe they'll be a little better. Happy to hear that, Eileen. And here is lock number 27. This would be lock 27. This is also in, I don't believe that this lock is extant. It might be. This is in a section that's on private property, and I'm yet to go get permission to hike if it is extant. Dave Barber, the late president of the Canal Society of America, wrote a book that guides you on all, it's out of print, but you can find it on Amazon and like, that guides you on the old route of the D&H Canal and tells you what was extant then 30 years ago. I'm working on a Google map of the entire route of the canal, where I'm embedding then and now pictures, and some of these Where's Our Historian videos are going to show up as well. And here they are. There's that steam launch. See how much smaller that is? Rising up in the lock here. Doesn't say which lock it is. Lots of, maybe the catalog says. I'd have to go check. Wonderful picture there. Oh, sailing. Look at that. It's like animation, only worse, huh? Yeah, oh well. I like that you can see some of the people, kind of humanizes the whole thing, right? What a world that had to have been, a little slower and more bucolic. There's some wonderful sections, especially in Sullivan County, that are still watered, where you can see, you can get a sense of what it was. Here's another one of those ones where you get to, this is on the summit level now. The summit level was between, the northern end of Sullivan County, all the way to Cotabato in Orange County. It was 17 miles of canal with no locks in it, and it was the high point of the canal. And they said that the canal flowed in both directions, towards the Hudson and towards the Delaware. And they had so much trouble on that end. Here's another shot of that. So much trouble on that end that they had to make the locks. The outflow, even when the lock was at its lowest, was so strong that they needed extra men to help get the boats in, and they had to make those locks during the enlargement. Those locks wound up 6 inches wider. So all the locks were only 6 inches wider than the boats themselves. Imagine this much room on either side, 3 inches, like a hand in glove. But that meant it was quicker. You could lock through. In fact, they could lock through on the enlarged canal in under 5 minutes. Took 8 minutes with the smaller boats, but with the bigger boats, they could do what they called swelling out. They'd open the gates early, foot or two of water still on the lock, and it would push the boat on out. And coincidentally, after 1853 to 57, there was a gear house that enabled one man or woman to operate that lock, but you had to get the boat under it. Swelling out was a way to get through, but it also sped things up. Here's another great. So this is an interesting story. You see that bridge? Ron Knapp is here with us today. Ron is a SUNY New Paltz historian, history teacher, author of many books, including 2 Uncovered Bridges. And he taught me that this is a covered bridge. Doesn't look covered. There's a guy standing there. Well, here's what Ron taught me. In the early 19th century, when they were just making wood timbered bridges, they discovered that a regular bridge would last about 15 years, but that if you covered the members, it would last 50 to 60 years. The D&H had probably over 100 covered bridges, most of them unknown to the Society for the Preservation, I guess it is, of the covered bridge. Ron and I are going to be writing an article on these bridges, and I'm still collecting pictures of them. I found more, Ron. I have in my spare time. We'll have to get together, even remotely. Now we're going down the canal. We're at Neversink. Not sure exactly what this is showing. There's the boat, though. This looks like it might have even been taken off of one of those bridges. That looks to be a lock back where it's heading into. Wasn't sure if the DSL line here was going to be good, but it seems to be doing all right. And now here we are, we're going south on the canal here. We passed Neversink. Now you're about to go through the Neversink-Lackawaxen Aqueduct. Excuse me, the Neversink Aqueduct. John Roebling, starting in 1847, he designs 2 suspension aqueducts, one over the Lackawaxen, one over the Delaware. Why not just a single one, you say? The owner of the confluence didn't like the D&H company, wouldn't sell. They built 2 of them and couldn't have been happier. I just recently read in a book, I always knew that from the very first annual report that the D&H had planned to just run on the Delaware River. And I would say, geez, you look at it and go, how is that going to work? Well, I've discovered how. They were going to put a series of dams in there. um, and use that to produce pools. And then whether they do, there's a thing called a beaver trap dam that Canvas White, who discovered natural cement on the Erie in 1818, worked on the Lehigh and Delaware, and on that canal they had what they call beaver trap dams. There were dams that would come up, they'd let the water get behind it, and then they'd flop down and the boats would go down on the water. Perhaps that's what they were going to do. Well, they had a lot of trouble with the lumbermen who had been moving logs out of the Delaware Valley to market. In fact, their entire career, even after they built these rolling aqueducts, they had problems with the raftsmen, and they paid a lot of money to them. And here's a really nice shot of that aqueduct, the Never Sink Aqueduct. It replaced a wood trunk and stone one designed by John Jervis. Judy, that was for you. Um, oh, Christine Hop on Mohawk Road. Hey, Christine, you'll have to introduce yourself someday when we can all talk. I know your name from Facebook. Maybe we have met and I'm just forgetting. You know, as you get older, I seem to remember most canal stuff, fortunately. Lucky for me. What's this got? A side? Ah, it's a boat arriving at Cutterbackville. No, there's 141, but I didn't want us to run too long. And so I went through them and got this little tour going, but I'm only about halfway through. I'm going to either have to go quicker or, well, I'll figure it out. We'll all figure it out. Let me know what you want, people. I'm here for you. I guess I could go quicker with the pictures too, couldn't I? I believe now we're going to be getting right here to Port Jervis at the 12-mile level above Port Jervis. I haven't quite found this in real life yet, but I'll get down there soon and see. This picture will actually help me because there'll be a key. I know more or less where this is. There's a dump north of Port Jervis where the canal ran through, and I'm going to guess that this is past there. Port Jervis, folk, you might blocking the audio. My goodness. Well, is that where my mic is? It's a brave new world, folks. We'll figure it all out somehow. Huh. Oops. Now we're out of sequence, but here this is some boy, see that's I gotta work better, don't I? There's just people hanging out on the side. This is said to be Bill somewhere. I wasn't as assiduous as I should have been in putting these things in order. Oh yeah. Oops. Somehow, Cutterback Bill got ahead of me. This is the Al House. Uh, Canal House? Boy, when you lose letters with the word canal, by the way, people, you can have some unfortunate signage. Yeah. Leaving the lock at the Never Sink. There's that boat again. I wonder if this is the Pie Lock, folks. It could be. Although there's not many buildings around it, maybe it's not. Ever wonder what it looked like as the lock filled? Well, here's a picture showing you. Thank you so much, Ron, for that clarification. People who are following in the comments. Ron, a great historian. Hawk's Nest Dave, not according to that picture, but as we found, sometimes what's written on the pictures isn't right. I thought it looked like Hawk's Nest too, but that claims that it's north of Port Jervis. I'm going to keep us in the interest of keeping us moving here. Look at this. I don't know what was going on, but I love this. There's a bunch of people on a covered bridge, and they're obviously watching some boat or other coming down the canal. Wait for it. And oh, this is in Port Jervis, according to this, but again, we don't always know. If so, this is another bridge we didn't get to yet, Ron. But look at all those people. Obviously, there's a reason for them to be there. Maybe it's just the steam launch they're all wanting to see. You know, steamboats weren't common in that section of the country. So if you didn't actually live near the Hudson River, or travel much, you might not get to see a steamboat. I just love any of these bucolic these scenes of what it was like on the canal. There's your two animal team, largely mules that they used. Um, and there's again an adult movie. It did happen. They preferred boys and girls. They were cheaper. And in fact, we have through PA Cole many stories of um, boys starting on the canal at the age of 6 or 7, working their way up. 14-year-old captains with crews younger than them, operating boats with 130 tons of coal. I always like to let the youngsters know they have it easy today, folks. This is the canal. Oh, well, it says it's canal. We're approaching something, Dave. Anybody want to weigh in? I love it when I need all the help I can get, right? It's a big open basin area. Well, always something new to learn, folks. Oh my goodness. Just it's like Siri, folks, but it's Google's. This is another great shot. I've got a This is an awful big basin area. Again, we should be able to identify it. There's a picture up that's been making the rounds of a lock that people are saying maybe was Rosendale. Judy and I are thinking it might be down more her way. Yeah, I'm going to skip some of these just because. Oh, this though, action shots. You got to love action shots, right? Water entering the lock. There's the miter gate there, right? I think that's the miter gate end, right? Boy, I'm gonna have to clean up this whole stack of stuff. I'll have to do an animation with some of these. Now the gate's open. Look at that, huh? You can imagine how a photographer would have been fascinated by the opportunity to get on one of these steam launches. Just another one of those shots. They preferred mules, folks. You can imagine if a photographer would have an opportunity to traverse the country and to give people an idea of what life was like then. And you and I get, because we have these pictures, the opportunity to get a sense ourselves. I thought I did a better job yesterday of putting these in order, but I didn't. So there you go. To err is human, and I am oh so human. There we go. I love that shot. That's the shot I used to advertise this. Get myself together here. I'm trying to keep us moving here. Nope, not you, not you. I'll clean all that up later, folks. You don't need to. Okay, Dave, this is for you because this is the canal along the Delaware. This is probably near Hawk's Nest. Try to get it so that it's steady. As I say, if you really want to get a good look at one of these pictures, go back and pause the video. And here is the Delaware feeder. So what you're seeing there, that water that's been captured, there's a dam to capture the water, and there's water that's being pulled into the canal. This says it's at the Lackawaxen. Make sure I'm keeping up on any questions. And this is the narrows of the Lackawaxen, where they had a similar situation and had to build big stone walls to support. Whereas our historian, when we get to the N-word locks and the Roebling Aqueduct, I shot some video of one of these stone walls supporting the High Falls Roebling Aqueduct. Something to look forward to, people. If you would, please, if you're interested in our YouTube videos, please go and subscribe. If we can get, I think it's 90 more this morning, 90 more likes, subscribers, we'll get our own URL and it'll make it easier for everybody to see the content we're producing here for y'all. And we have every intention of continuing all this when things do get back to whatever normal it's going to be in the post-COVID world or post-pandemic world here. Must be early in the season. That's a pretty high river there. Look at all, imagine the work it took to make all of that stuff. Wow. As I always like to say, I get tired just looking at it. That's right. And here is a picture of the boat making its way in that same. I think in some of the later Sunday afternoons, I'll do some of my PowerPoint presentations, but the best I can make out at the moment, Facebook Live, I can share my screen, but once I do, you don't get to see me anymore. Lots of you are going, that's fine, yeah. So I'll probably, in one of the future ones, do that. Here's a great shot. I wish I'd had it. Which aqueduct is? Oh, this is the Lackawaxen Aqueduct. I needed. Today was the anniversary of the first boat crossing the Delaware River on Roebling's suspension aqueduct there. And it was a big deal. Everybody thought it was going to just collapse. Nobody understood that the boat was going to displace an equal amount of water. So that 130-ton, well, at that point in time, those boats were only carrying about 90 tons of coal because the summit level, they couldn't get a full 6 foot of water that season. So they either brought the coal there and offloaded half of it, went 17 miles, came back and reloaded, or they simply didn't take a full boatload. But everybody thought that 90 tons of coal was going to be too much for the aqueduct, not realizing that 90 tons of water left as the boat came in. It's physics, people. We're in science-denying times, but physics is still physics. I love shots that just show you people. This looks like I'm out of order again. This looks like maybe this is somebody coming along with a canal boat at that same, with all those pictures of Justin Ellis, the YouTube channel. I'm not sure what it's called either, but if you go to our Facebook page and click on one of the other videos, it'll take you to it. And Dr. Powell, first one to correct my mistake this morning. Dr. Powell is asking if there was a published schedule. You know, I've read such. I've never seen an actual published schedule. Passenger boats on the canal, some people have said that they didn't have them. Well, that's because they were much more popular in the pre-photographic era. And so by the time we have photographs, people are taking trains because the boats are too slow. Although there was a famous, the boat, the Iowa was actually hired from Hutton Donaldson in Ellenville by a bunch of rich New York swells who then took it on a trip. They were towed up the Hudson River. They came down the canal, went all the way to Honesdale, and then came back and jumped on the Erie Canal. They had a piano on the boat. We've had this picture in the canal, inside the interior of the Iowa, and I'd always go, hey, look, they had a piano. I'm thinking, that's amazing. No, it was rented for the rich people who were on the boat. So it became a novelty, but packet service was then not as prevalent as it was, say, 1850 and earlier. Probably into the 1860s even. I'm going to accelerate a little just to get us going. Okay. Here is the famous Berryville Rocks. And again, it gives you an idea of what they had to go through. See if I can. I love how the picture. I think it might be my. Well, I'm not sure what picture that is. The internet's. I keep getting scared the internet's going to break down on us all, and then what are we going to do, right? Oi, oi. And here is the Lackawaxen River at the Narrows. Wait, here we go. I'm imagining there's a steel truss bridge, probably the Squire Whipple Bridge. Squire Whipple was one of the first graduates of Union College's civil engineering program in the 1840s, and he designed these metal truss bridges that replaced a lot of the other bridges, those covered bridges, as they finally got out of service, if you will. So here we're winding down now I don't have any pictures in here of Honesdale. It makes you wonder. But all of a sudden they jump to something that ought to make you happy, Robert, because we got the Gravity Railroad, the D&H Canal Company. And this does say, yes, something or other, D&H Gravity Railroad. Gravity railroads were fairly popular in the coal fields of to get over mountains and stuff. Canal wasn't practical. And the gravity railroads became the precursor to the amusement parks. They started doing regular passenger service. Here's another great shot. Robert, if you don't have scans of these, I'll be happy to make them and get them to you sometime. And I love the way that they name things. I'm constantly saying, um, yes, I'm sorry that the photos are blocking the audio, but I think you'd rather look than, well, I'm getting them all. I'll have to, well, I don't have a mic plug on this computer. Good to know, though. I don't know how much of this I'll do in the future, but this giant box of great photos just seemed like a wonderful opportunity. And here we've got far view. This was the station at the top of the Moosic Mountains, 800 foot up, that became a really popular destination for people, Sunday school trips and the like in the 1880s. And we like to point out that, in fact, uh, they just don't know I'm live, do they? Um, that's not you, Dave. I'd recognize your phone number. So there, I've gotten to the end of the pictures I thought I'd show you today. Oh, you're going to keep trying, are you? Um, I only kept the volume on in case Dave had a question. Okay, Robert, you're on. Oh my goodness. This has got to be a spam call, right? Um, so thank you all for joining me. I'm going to be here. Boy, that went quick. You know, I could sit and talk about the D&H Canal for hours, couldn't I? Thank you all for joining me. Please, we've got we'll be releasing two YouTube videos a week. One, Where is Our Historian, on Mondays or Tuesdays. And the second, a virtual tour of this museum, because we're building an even better one to be opened 2 years from now. Next week, I'll either do one of my PowerPoints or I might go to the Depew Canal House and show you around there. But I want to thank you all for joining me. Please like our page, send money if you can. Thank you everyone who's given to my birthday fundraiser. I think we're up over $800 in donations. We really appreciate it. I know that these are tough times and that we really need money for doing something about this COVID scourge. But small institutions are suffering. I've just read that the Tenement Museum is in danger, which is just astounding. They have a wonderful museum, but unlike most museums, 75% of their admissions, 75% of their money is their admissions. That's not true here. Maybe 10% of our budget comes from admissions and membership, which isn't to say we don't want you to come, and we don't want you to be uh, members, but we were fortunate when this hit. We weren't open yet, and in fact, if we don't open at all this year, and I'm hoping that by the fall we'll be doing something, if not late summer, but we wouldn't be taking the hit that some of the other small institutions. Steve wants to know, could two canal boats pass each other in opposite directions at the same time? Indeed, they could. The canal was wide enough, and the early canal, 32 foot wide, plenty of room for two 9.5 foot or 9 foot wide boats. After the final enlargement, 40 to 50 foot, some places still only 32 foot wide on the top, but they make it 32 foot wide on the bottom as well, so that two 14.5 foot wide boats could pass. It was only on the locks, bridges, aqueducts where they went single file. Otherwise, it was two-way. And in fact, check out the Tale of Two Towpaths in the Where is Our Historian series, which talks about some of the things that occurred because of that. Well, the time has passed awful quickly, folks, but I don't want to go too long on you. What if I run out of stuff? I hope you'll all join me next week at 2, or you can always keep watching this. We'll be hanging these up on our YouTube channel. I think we finally worked that out. And I look forward to seeing you all, and thank you all for joining me. Bye. Come on. Oh, I see. It's a NY. You all get to see us learn all this in real time too. Isn't that wonderful? All right. Maybe it's the gloves. Ma, you out there? Yeah, wow.